Will Prince William ever forgive Prince Harry for the memoir, the interviews, and everything? But most importantly, for William using that key word to Prince Harry and Harry dismissing it entirely. Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and today we are talking about, I feel like, just William's grief over what Harry has become. I feel like throughout the bits we've gotten from Spare, I'm sorry I haven't been able to read it yet, but I feel like we feel this overwhelming sense from Prince William of absolute grief towards Harry and his actions and his inability to really listen to what William is trying to tell him. Harry is dismissive. He thinks William is in league with the press. So many different things. And I feel like all William is trying to do is saying, Harry, listen to me. Please actually listen to me. But I feel like because Harry has been so dismissive every time William has really tried to get through to Harry, I just don't know if their relationship will ever recover, especially when you consider all these details that Harry has put in his book about Catherine, William's own children, so many different things. I feel like William, perhaps him and Harry, will never be close again. But also, a really interesting thing to consider is, what if William has been distancing himself from Harry for years due to Harry's toxicity, his inconsistency, and perhaps this paranoia that has existed for perhaps since Diana died? And how, unfortunately, the result of perhaps that distance is somebody like Meghan Markle coming in to the picture. It's an interesting idea to consider. And we'll also talk briefly about Catherine and William, their time in Liverpool today. But if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, like I said, my name is Brittany, and on this channel I provide compelling royal commentary on the latest news and sometimes a little bit of gossip too. I will also be reviewing television shows and movies and sharing a bit about history as well. And I also have a fashion channel, and I have a trip to London, and it's getting pretty close to the deadline of when that trip will no longer have spots available. So if you guys are interested in that, again, details are down below. We'll be in London. This will be a couple of weeks after the coronation in late May, and we'll go to the Tower of London, St. Paul's, Kensington Palace, so many different places and see so many different sites. And we'll also go to the Cotswolds out in the English countryside where Princess Beatrice has a home. So guys, if you're interested in that, there will be a link again in the description down below. So before we go on to Harry though, let's talk about Catherine and William. They were at the Royal Liverpool University Hospital today visiting Merseyside, and it was really just a really joyous and fun occasion. It looks like Catherine especially looked fantastic in tartan. She had her Holland Cooper coat on, and they were able to hang out with the dog, which was really, really sweet. And it was just an opportunity to thank the health workers in that hospital, and especially the mental health workers, and especially thanking them for their time during this rather dark season. I don't know if you've lived in the UK or not, but it's usually pretty overcast most of the time. And especially in the winter months, that can be pretty depressing. So they went there and thanked them all for their work. And they were asked at least one time, technically one person is, I think they asked it twice, William, have you read Harry's memoir? And I realize the press is there to get a rise, get a reaction out of Catherine and William, but they didn't even react in the slightest. So go ahead and take a watch here.
Your Royal Highness, have you had a chance to read your brother's book at all? Have you had a chance to read your brother's book at all, Your Royal Highness?
All right, so I feel like that is super indicative of how the British monarchy is dealing with this. They're just saying, keep calm. We're going to carry on, and we're going to ignore the chaos over in the United States. And I feel like although Harry's book has supposedly been one of the best sellers nonfiction-wise of all time, I'm not sure if you get into the nitty-gritty, I'd be really curious if that was actually the case. Obviously, you could have a lot of people who grab digital downloads now instead of buying actual books, because I feel like buying and holding actual books has been on the decline. But when I think about it, I believe that it just somewhat makes sense too that the publisher to a certain extent could be inflating numbers because they're forcing the bookstores to purchase a certain number of books. So let's say if you had 3 pre-orders, you can't just order 5 books, let's say, so you have 3 and then 2 left over. No, you have to buy 12. And because the bookstores are buying 12, then the burden is on them to shift the copies. Rather than being on the publisher can say, hey, we've sold X number of books, even though those books were sold to stores, not books sold to customers. See the difference? So it'll be interesting to see if any of that is actually the case. And so I admire Catherine and William for just ignoring the question, which I knew they were going to do. And I feel like it didn't even faze them. But anyways, I feel like it was very important for Catherine and William to go out and do this engagement. Charles was actually out on an engagement as well. So he was greeting crowds, he was chatting with people. And it's just good to see the monarchy doing this, to ignore what Harry and Meghan are doing, because I feel like that really drains the fire from Harry and Meghan. It gives them less to work with if the British royal family is not even responding to them. Because at this point, I feel like the way forward is to keep calm and carry on and just absolutely ignore Harry and Meghan and basically cut them out if they can, as much as humanly possible. Because anytime Harry and Meghan go somewhere or they're with the royal family, it's an opportunity for them to gain more information, more material to use for Netflix, to use for Spotify, to use for whatever their overlords want them to do. And Harry and Meghan, they desperately need that capital. Because what I think is interesting is that although Harry's book has sold well, and I wasn't really anticipating it to not sell well, because people, again, they love the car crash mentality. But I think Harry and Meghan are missing the bigger picture here. As yes, it sells well, but that money stream will eventually peter out. Not to mention the fact, did the hit to your public reputation, in the end, will that really help you? Because a lot of people are laughing at you, not with you. In addition to that, you also have the possibility that you will never be welcomed back into the royal family again. You may always be on the periphery. And when it comes to the coronation, there's even more and more reports that Harry and Meghan may not get an invite, may not go, may be very strongly encouraged not to go entirely. It may come to the point where we're going to invite you, but that's a courtesy, you don't get to come. Or we'll invite you, but you're literally way in the back, because the royal family cannot trust Harry and Meghan. And I feel like for William in particular, this lack of trust is huge for him right now. I would not be surprised if he cannot stand the sight of Harry, cannot stand the mention of him, so many things. Although I will say there's reports that William tells other people not to say bad things about Harry. I feel like that is totally the case. And if he is, bravo to him. But I feel like William is in the process of further distancing himself from Harry. Because I feel like throughout the story, Harry talks a lot about, he mentions a lot about how there's this great distance between him and William. So go ahead and take a listen here.
I think so many people around the world watched you and your brother grow up and feel like you two were inseparable. And yet in reading the book, you have lived separate lives from the time your mom died.
Yeah, and at the time it hurt. I couldn't make sense of it. I was like, what do you mean? We're now at the same school. Like, I haven't seen you for ages. Now we get to hang out together? He's like, no. When we're at school, we don't know each other. And I took that personally.
So I found that super interesting. And as we get more and more of these clips from the book and everything, and I feel like Harry is almost toxicity and chaos incarnate. He is brash, he's unpredictable, he's angry, he's mad, he's paranoid, he's all these different things. And I wonder, looking through and hearing through the whole thing, obviously, again, I have not had a chance to read the book, but I would not be surprised if for years and years, William was slowly distancing himself from Harry and slowly going more towards the Middletons. I would not be surprised in the slightest if William considers James, perhaps in certain instances, a better friend to him than he does Harry. And this was even perhaps before Meghan, because I feel like what William loved was the stability that Catherine and her family offered. That it was this nuclear family, that the kids were close, the parents were close, and the parents were close with the kids. And there was this stability there that I feel like William really glommed onto. Because if you think about William, his entire younger life was chaos. Diana, and very much Harry too, they are people who I think to a certain extent, and very similar to actually Meghan as well, thrive on a certain amount of chaos. And they thrive on a certain amount of toxicity and drama. And not to say Diana was a terrible person, she wasn't, but that was part of her personality, I feel like. So she played to the press a lot and would get mad, for example, if she said, well, come to Switzerland and get a couple pictures of me and the kid and show me being a great mom. And then she's like, well, then go away. And the photographers are like, well, no, we came here, we want more pictures, it makes us more money, so yeah, we're not leaving. And I think Diana would get mad at that. And William was very, very aware of the toxicity surrounding his parents' marriage. He saw a lot more of it than Harry did. And I feel like William was deeply, deeply aware of the dysfunction in his parents' life and how their marriage went basically catastrophically wrong. And William was the mature one in this dynamic. He said, okay, I'm going to take the lessons here and I'm going to apply them to my life, and I'm going to live my life differently. I'm going to make the decision to live my life unlike my mother and my brother and perhaps my father too. And so what does he do? He is attracted to a woman who's, you know, pretty shy. I think Catherine, at the end of the day, is probably a pretty shy person. She is very trustworthy. She doesn't cause a huge amount of publicity about herself. Now, if you think about the days when her and William were dating, yes, especially during their breakup period, she very much played to the press. She very much played up her status as a single woman. And I think to a certain extent to get William back. Hey, can I totally blame her? No, she was playing a game. And if we were, for example, just normal couples, she may be going to the pubs or something and being, you know, perhaps a little bit more outgoing than she normally is. And that would be abnormal for her character in order to get, you know, her boyfriend back, basically. And so I feel like this is not unusual. And I feel like at the end of the day, Catherine and William have this super strong foundation of friendship. They like doing the same activities. They've grown up together in a lot of ways because they've known each other for so long. They've known each other. They've been dating they started dating in 2003. It's been 20 years since they've been together, and even longer since when they knew each other. So they are close. And I feel like as William learned and saw what the Middletons were like, he just, I think, wanted to separate himself from Harry a little bit more. And I think every year that grew and grew and grew, because I think he saw Harry very much like his mother. And although he loves him deeply and wanted to help, Harry didn't want the help. Harry didn't want the help for a long time. And even when he got the help, he blamed other people for his actions. He didn't do the things he should have done, and et cetera, et cetera. And so William very much had to take the stance like, okay, I love my brother, but for my own mental health, I need to separate myself from him. I need to not be into all the things Harry is into, following him around, doing all the lad things, you know, doing something similar to the Vegas thing and those sorts of things. He made the conscious decisions like, that's not what I want for myself. That's not what I want for my life. And honestly, it puts me in a bad place mentally. Perhaps he remembers things about his mother and his parents' marriage, and it just is something that he didn't want. So I feel like this distance grew over time. And Harry is very much a guy who did not get the help he wanted or needed. So he is basically just free reign all over the place. And again, William was like, okay, you can do that over there, but I'm going to be over here, and I'm not going to do that. And what happened? Well, Meghan Markle just kind of slotted herself right in. She's like, okay, so these brothers are not getting along. I'm just gonna get myself right here, and I'm gonna be involved in this dynamic. And Harry was vulnerable to that at that point. And as Meghan, I felt like that she really glommed onto the ghost of Diana. She basically made herself Diana incarnate to Harry. She decided that she was going to wear her perfume, allegedly. She was going to dress like her. She was going to act like her. I'm sure she seems to mother Harry a lot. In terms of their PDA, it's very mothering gestures in so many ways. You know, especially you've got the polo game where she's like getting hair lipstick off his face. Very much like a mother would. And so that really helped Harry and helped him glom on to this mother wound that he has. And I believe, this is just again my theories, is that William recognized this too late. He realized what was going on too late, that Harry really didn't get the help he needed, and Meghan was the exact wrong person. And as soon as he met her, I think he was all over it. He's like, oh, no, no, no. And as time went on and as the tension just grew and grew and grew, we have that fight between the brothers.
It all happened so fast, so very fast. He grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and he knocked me to the floor. I landed on the dog's bowl, which cracked under my back, the pieces cutting into me. I lay there for a moment, dazed, then got to my feet and told him to get out.
I've discussed the fight between the brothers already. So William came in and he allegedly grabbed Harry by the collar, shook him, literally trying to shake sense into him. That's what I feel like when I hear that. It's like he's trying to get in his face, trying to shake sense into Harry. And what's I feel like so aggravating probably for William to the extreme is that he's telling Harry, I am being told by our staff members that your wife is difficult, rude, and abrasive. That is what I'm being told by your staff. And Harry's repeating back to him, well, you're just repeating what the press says. And William's like, no, we share staff, you numbskull. I know what's going on. I can go and talk to them. I've talked to the women that she's abused. And I'm telling you right now, what they're telling me is the truth. Please believe me. And Harry wouldn't do it. Harry was like, you know, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And again, it's this delusion and paranoia that Harry, I feel like, lives under constantly now. And he is always in this victim mentality. He always is the victim of everything, every circumstance. And he is so madly and insanely in love with Meghan because to him, she is his opportunity to save his mother that he cannot see beyond himself. But I think the most devastating is when William used this key word on Harry, and Harry dismissed him. So go ahead and take a listen here.
Listen to me, Harold. Listen. I love you, Harold. I want you to be happy. The words flew out of my mouth. I love you too, but your stubbornness is extraordinary. And yours isn't. He grabbed me again, twisting me to maintain eye contact. Harold, you must listen to me. I just want you to be happy, Harold. I swear on Mummy's life, he'd used the secret code, the universal password. For nearly 25 years, we'd reserved that soul-crushing vow for times when one of us needed to be heard, to be believed quickly. For times when nothing else would do. It stopped me cold, as it was meant to. Not because he'd used it, but because it didn't work. I simply didn't believe him.
So obviously you can see the key word is I swear on Mummy's memory. So this is a moment. If William or Harry says this key word, they're both supposed to stop and really try to listen to the other person. They're really trying to engage with them. They're like, okay, what they have to tell me is life-changing. It's earth-shattering. We need to hear this. And Harry mentioned in his memoir that it didn't work. It didn't work. And I can't imagine for William how utterly devastated he was probably to hear that from Harry. That he was utterly crushed to hear that Harry, in their moment, and they're trying to, William's trying to get him to understand that, hey, you said these things about us on Oprah. So this is after Prince Philip's funeral. You said these terrible things about myself, my wife, my children. What are you doing? Please help me understand. And I'm trying to get you to understand too. I love you. I love you. But I want to make sure you're happy. And what this phrase tells to me is that William, although I feel like he again was distancing himself from Harry, as somebody who knows Harry probably better than anybody else on the planet, even better than his wife, Meghan Markle, I think William knows at the heart of it, Harry isn't happy. And Meghan, instead of helping him to heal, has just magnified his wounds to the nth degree. Harry always says, well, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. But the guy doesn't smile that much anymore. You just don't feel this feeling of joy from Harry. You feel this tension. It's always tense. He's always so tense about everything. And I feel like that's because Meghan has ratcheted up his paranoia to 11. And he is just in this thing where, you have that scene in the car during their documentary and they're like, there's a guy on a scooter. There's a guy on a scooter. And that was, terrifying. There was a guy on the scooter apparently chasing them, which we have no picture of or video of, just them looking randomly in a car. And so Harry is just at this point, William, I'm sure, has realized you cannot reason with crazy. You cannot reason with somebody who's deluded, who's paranoid, who has no concept really of reality anymore. And I think William came to realize you can't reason with crazy. Harry has lost touch with reality. I think that's, you can almost say that's a fact. Harry is not living in the plane of existence that the rest of us are. He thinks he's had a horrible, miserable life in his $15 million mansion. He says that he really, you know, his father cutting him off was a horrible, wretched thing, and he didn't know what to do with $20 million in the bank somewhere. And that how terrible it was that somebody stole his parking space or didn't honor his mother's parking space. Something about a parking space in Kensington Palace, where he lived rent-free, by the way, and got his life basically all taken care of, 24-hour security, everything, all the time. And yet he could never, ever appreciate any of it. That man is absolutely what the royal family called him, delusional and paranoid. And I think in that moment, when William tried at his absolute most devastating to try to get his brother to listen to him, I'm sure he realized to a certain extent, there's nothing I can do anymore. I cannot reason with crazy. I cannot reason with a guy who won't listen to me, who won't try to understand what we're trying to tell him, which is that this is not going well for you. And this life that you're leading with Meghan, that's your right to do. But I think you've missed the bigger picture here. And I feel like that's what Harry and Meghan are doing right now. Harry's written this book. And sure, him and Meghan might get a whole lot of cold hard cash. But you know what? He's going to need more. Because Meghan spends like a drunk sailor on leave. So they're going to need more money because they need more Hermes blankets, guys. They need more Hermes blankets and more personalized touches of Sussex gear. And so they'll have to do more. They'll have to do something else. But they don't have anything else. They've given away pretty much everything. So now they actually have to stand on their laurels. And what if their titles get pulled? What if they're removed from the line of succession? What if they're basically stripped from having anything to do with the monarchy ever again? Will that be worth it? Obviously, it'll give them something to complain about for a little bit longer. But I feel like Harry is missing the bigger thing here, is that this whole thing with Meghan, he hasn't saved her. And he's you know, saying he's trying to save, you know, basically news media in the UK. It's like, you're not saving it. What you want is a dictatorship, because you are so paranoid and crazy that you don't understand the difference between reality and fakery. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to shove all the media to prop up your narrative. And that's very, very dangerous, because most dictators and most true absolute monarchs do go crazy at some point, because I don't think to a certain extent other human beings can have that much power, and you become so paranoid because you're so well aware of your own mortality. And so I feel like Harry in this situation, he should have listened to William. He should have taken some time and listened to what his brother was trying to tell him. What his brother was trying to tell him is that your staff, our staff, are telling us that Meghan Markle is rude, abrasive, demanding, and that she's bullying them. And Harry refused to believe it because Meghan is perfect. So Meghan very much at this point still has her claws in Harry. But I feel like as Harry gets older, as he realizes he missed time with his grandfather, his grandmother, that he misses his family, and that they are saying at this point, we don't want anything to do with you. Harry says he wants reconciliation, as if this will help anything. And they're like, no, we're so sorry. We cannot reconcile with someone who doesn't have a base in reality. I thought this was very telling as well, and I'll end on this, is that Harry, at some point in one of his interviews, said that just tell us what we did wrong and we'll apologize. And then you can apologize to us what we think you've done wrong. Well, mature and healthy relationships don't give people a list of things they need to apologize for. Some of that has to come from actual self-reflection. So that tells me Harry and Meghan already believe that they're perfect, and that they'll probably try to argue against anything the royal family says they did wrong. And you can't be in a relationship with somebody who's keeping score. And I feel like that's what Harry and Meghan are doing. They have this score list. They have this angry burn list of all the things they feel like the monarchy has done to them. And if the monarchy gives them that inch, if they say, okay, we'll tell you our list of grievances, Harry and Meghan will give them 1,000 times more about every little nitpicky thing they believe the monarchy has done wrong or done them wrong in whatever way they can. And so I feel like at this point, what the monarchy has to do moving forward is saying, okay, we're going to keep calm and carry on. And Harry is no longer part of that picture. He's given up his place in history. He's given up his family, his country, his livelihood, his heritage, all to appease Meghan Markle. And at the end of the day, will their marriage last? I don't know, because I think resentment will build. I think tensions will build if they're not there already. And I feel like despite what Harry says, happiness is not found trashing your family. Although Harry doesn't believe he's trashing his family, happiness is not found there. It's found with self-reflection, introspection, and understanding that there's certain things in life you cannot change, and knowing that moving forward means sometimes forgiveness and reconciliation, but that requires you to take the first step. The ball is not in the monarchy's court. It's in Harry's court. The monarchy will always be there. And I feel like today they showed their power, this consistency of work. They're not scared of Harry and Meghan. They're like, no, we're still going to do our thing. People still want to see us. We still get crowds. We still get waves. We still get cheers. Harry and Meghan, I feel like that will diminish for them. And it's already doing so. And so I feel like their future is pretty bleak, really. They may make some money, but it's probably cost them their souls in a lot of ways, and their ability to be a part of one of the most historic coronations in history in many ways. And they've lost out on that chance. And again, they only have themselves to blame. But I feel like William is trying to get through this, and he's probably in this moment grieving the loss of Harry, grieving the loss of that relationship that could have been, that he'll probably never get back. And I feel like that's so incredibly, incredibly sad. Well guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll be working on reading up on Spare, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. I'm thinking about maybe doing some short audio clips for every chapter. If you guys are interested in that, let me know. I look forward to hearing from you guys really, really soon. Bye.